If you like audiobooks or audio shows, check out a free trial of Audible. Just click the link in the description.
Welcome to Mindshock True Crime. You are listening to the Maura Murray series, and I am your host, Bruce McGuire. This is episode 81, Monkeying Around. We will be looking at some supposedly mundane details, like the stuffed monkeys, Maura Murray's two stuffed monkeys, Harry and Joseph, and perhaps there are some Freudian slips by the inner circle that can give us a clue that can possibly be the key to unlocking this entire mystery, to unraveling the Tower of Babel stacked high stack of coincidences unlike any other case. And we will be tackling this in typical Mindshock fashion with logic and reason at the forefront. If you want to support logical analysis of true crime cases, keep up awareness in these cases, cold cases, missing persons cases, and wrongful convictions, you can donate to our PayPal. Just check the link in the description. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit that bell for notifications. You could also be a YouTube member right here on YouTube for access to exclusive streams and chats. Like and share the podcast, Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, Patreon. Patrons do get priority for case topic, logical analysis, co-podcast requests. You could also be a guest in the podcast depending on your tier. Questions, comments, theories, thoughts, suggestions, rebuttals, debunkings of any kind, leave them in the comments section. Alright, so in certain cases, the devil really is in the details, because some people might say, okay, the stuffed monkeys, who cares? But here's the thing. If there's a Freudian slip in terms of the chain of custody of the stuffed monkeys, that could indeed be a clue that could unravel the whole thing. In a lot of these older true crime cases, a lot of times it's some innocuous detail that a thorough investigator just sought to double check, to verify, just for the sake of being thorough and nothing more. And oftentimes it leads to unraveling some of the more critical details, but it's got to start somewhere. The unraveling of a giant thread could start with a tiny, tiny little piece of thread. It could even be hooked on something that's so small it could barely be seen. But once the unraveling starts, it doesn't stop and the whole thing comes apart. Now, I am not alleging that the stuffed monkeys can do that. I have no way of knowing that. But if we are going to be thorough, comprehensive, and exhaustive, which is what Mindshock is known for, we have to upturn every stone. And this is one of the stones. So there's actually a pretty astute post here. This was posted by Lively Mamu on the Maura Murray subreddit. This is also a relatively sham subreddit, not as bad as the so-called official Maura Murray subreddit, but a lot of the trolls, obfuscators, and steerers that are present on the official sham subreddit are also involved in this one. These triggered goofs, just at the drop of a hat, anything that deviates from the official narrative, they get triggered and jump in. I mean, it's like they're sitting there 24/7 just waiting for anyone to post anything outside of the official narrative. And then they just get instantly triggered. It's really bizarre. You don't see this in other cases. But here's the post here. Is Joseph the missing link? This is not a joke, so please don't ban my post. I'm referring to Joseph the monkey, not the ex-owner of this sub. The beginning of this post doesn't mention anything new for those who've been following the case for a while, so you may want to skip to part 2. I will also provide links at the bottom for those interested. Part 1. Remember Maura's two stuffed monkeys, Harry and Joseph. Harry, the gray monkey, was found in Maura's room, and then Sharon claimed in her shredded Navy letter that both monkeys were in the Rausch's possession right after Maura disappeared. What happened afterwards? Well, we know for a fact that Harry, the gray monkey, was eventually given to John Smith to use with psychics and is in his possession to this day. Having been found in Maura's room rather than the Saturn, I think Harry was never considered evidence, but I say this only because NHPD, I don't know if that's supposedly state police, seem to have pretty much decided that if a crime was committed, it would have been in New Hampshire. Had they believed a crime was involved in 2 states, the FBI would have involved much longer. Harry's fate is not suspicious in my opinion. I would say everything is suspicious, and if Maura... here's the other thing, too. For those that believe that Maura left of her own volition from the UMass area and did make it to New Hampshire or elsewhere, for those who believe that on blind faith or for whatever reason, if she really did have some kind of health crises, wouldn't she have taken the monkey with her? Huh. Did she like one more than the other, so she would have only taken one? But let's continue here. What about Joseph the brown monkey? What happened with him? The only thing we know for a fact is that Sharon claimed in her shredded Navy letter that both monkeys were in the Rausch's possession right after Maura disappeared. We also know Harry is now with John Smith. What we don't know with absolute 100% certainty, considering the source is Sharon and considering law enforcement is not talking, is where Joseph was on February 9th, 2004, and where is he now? Had Joseph been in the Saturn, law enforcement would have probably reclaimed it, but what if he wasn't? Or maybe he was and they didn't reclaim it. Again, none of the law enforcement's actions in this case are pretty much unlike any other case, so. What other case are the possessions of a vehicle given to the family and then taken back? It's just really weird. Part 2, could Maura have taken Joseph with her as kind of an insurance policy? It seems like it's pretty official that Maura and Billy Rausch were splitting up. We've been told by a family member that she had a new boyfriend. So if Maura no longer wanted to be with Bill, then why would she want to keep that damn monkey anyways? Maura left Bill, so I would presume she would want nothing more to do with him, nor keep things that would remind her of him. Well, just like her cell phone, Joseph was a gift from Bill to Maura. We've learned recently that Bill gave a girlfriend of his an alarm clock containing a hidden camera that was used to film her having sex. Keeping the above info in mind, what are your thoughts on the following points? Was Joseph a regular monkey, or could he have had a hidden camera behind his glassy eyes? Was he, like Harry, also hanging from the ceiling of her dorm room with his eyes looking directly at her bed? Did he capture images of Maura having sex with another man? Did Maura become catatonic when she possibly learned she had been filmed having sex? Did Maura feel so ashamed, if indeed she was filmed having sex, that she decided to run away and decide to lie to her dad to get him to come over with $4,000, take the money from him, and leave forever? Would being filmed having sex be the very understandably good reason why her family and friends wouldn't want to talk about what happened before the Weathern barn? Let's say the New Hampshire Police Department, NHPD, did reclaim the original Joseph. Is it possible that upon learning of a hidden camera in the alarm clock of one of Billy Rausch's ex-girlfriends, that they finally decided to have a closer look at Joseph and found a camera behind his eyes? Is that why the VICAP all of a sudden? Is it possible they found nothing? Could Maura's alarm clock have had a hidden camera? Why the urgency to rush to Haverhill with the McDonald's, and then why did Bill go to Maura's dorm room at all? Did he volunteer to be the one? Was there something in that room that needed to be removed? Of course, I have no proof that any of the above is what happened. It's quite possible, as another Redditor has said, that I've calculated 2 plus 2 and come up with a result of 7, but I'm okay with that because I'm not perfect and make mistakes like everybody else. It's much better than lying and trying to frame others, which is definitely not my style and never will be. Okay. And let's take the camera out of the equation for a moment. This was 2004, so again, I'm not saying it's impossible, but let's just remove that for the equation for a moment. Because for those that believe that Maura met up with Bill at a later point, and he either harmed her or he didn't, but they did meet up and that was kept quiet. Of course, Bill roaming all over the Northeast, from Maine to Vermont and all these other places. I've gone over all that before in previous episodes. Episode 81 is probably not where you want to start in the Maura Murray series here on Mindshock. But just chain of custody. There's just so many unanswered questions, because where was this monkey? So here's another post. Here, I recently received some clarification about the 2 monkeys and wanted to post while it's still on my mind. Since the monkeys seem to cause a lot of confusion, here's what I have on this, and we can add edit as it's clarified. Maura had 2 monkeys, Joseph and Harry. Joseph was brown, Harry was gray, white and gray or cream and gray. Joseph was said to be a gift from Billy Rausch and named because Joseph was his middle name. I am not sure about Harry. Joseph Brown was said to be left in the Saturn. However, I don't think it is on any inventory list. Harry, the gray one, in the dorm photo, was given to John Smith by the family in 2006. I had heard it was possibly to interact with psychics, at least in part. This dorm photo of Harry was posted on Facebook by Tim in May 2018, along with other dorm photos and the liquor store receipt with redactions. That was said to have been given to Oxygen by law enforcement. Okay, so Harry was there. Joseph was said to be left in the Saturn, but apparently is not on any inventory list. Here's the thing, though. If Joseph was the gift, why would she take Joseph and leave it in the Saturn? Because if she's breaking up with Billy, wouldn't that be the monkey she wouldn't care about? So she would care about Harry, the one that was left hanging in the dorm. Again, this is all presupposing she left of her own volition. Now, if there was some kind of frame job, like leaving the book about suicide in the White Mountains or misadventures in the White Mountains, etc., to make it look like Maura was going into her car and escaping forever, and possibly stage some kind of suicide, would her friends staging the suicide, would they, if this was done by her friends, or possibly not by her friends, possibly by some nefarious parties, possibly a UMPD cadet, possibly somebody else in UMPD, possibly some corrupt police officers, possibly some drug dealers. I mean, again, her dorm, the site of one of the largest drug busts. So again, there's a lot of this drug activity at UMass. So if someone was framing everything to make it look like Maura was running away, would they not know the details of the monkeys? And they took the wrong monkey, the one that she wouldn't take, if she was leaving of her own volition. And these are the type of details I'm talking about that I opened the podcast with, because these are the types of details that might unravel this whole thing. Just like Maura Murray supposedly had some kind of tutoring appointment that she missed, because someone might have known where she worked. Someone might have known she was in certain classes to send those emails. But if they didn't know about that tutoring appointment, if they didn't know about the alarm clock that was set, there's certain details that they might not have known about, such as the differences in monkeys. So another astute researcher has dug up this article, February 19th, 2004. Not that many days after the alleged disappearance. Because again, we don't know what happened that Sunday. I mean, there's a lot of unknowns here. I'm going to go over this here. This is Valley News by Bob Hookway, Valley News staff writer. Family searches for college student missing since February 9th. North Haverhill. Fred Murray sat in his room at the Wells River Motel yesterday morning and recalled when his 21-year-old daughter, Maura, was a little girl in 3rd grade, and he'd teach her and her friends to play basketball. I'd say, run over there and stop, and she would. Then I'd say, okay, now run back over here and stop on this mark, and they all would, he said, laughing, as he remembered the little girls being so eager to do everything just right and learn the game properly. Murray, a nuclear medical technician from Hanson, Mass., is trim and well-groomed. It's easy to see the father of 4 usually doesn't look anywhere near his 61 years. But that's not true this week. As the days pass with no word from his daughter, a University of Massachusetts nursing student who vanished from Route 112 in North Haverhill on the night of February 9th, allegedly. Of course, there's no actual definitive evidence that Maura was ever at the stage scene. Murray is a very worried man. His face shows the strain. He's worried that Maura Murray got into the wrong car after she plowed her black 96 Saturn into a snowbank on a sharp curve and apparently decided not to stick around until police showed up to investigate the crash. That's, of course, if she was ever there in the first place. He's worried because police are virtually certain that she left the area in a vehicle. Haverhill Police Chief Jeff Williams said Tuesday there were no tracks in the snow around the crash site, and a state police search dog lost Maura Murray's scent quickly. Again, assuming it was her scent, they're using gloves that she might have never worn. So if somebody else was the driver or in the vehicle or put those gloves there, then that individual's scent is what the dog would be tracking, not Maura Murray's. It seems likely she got in a car. It could have been a good guy, could have been a bad guy, said Fred Murray, who is worried primarily that something bad has happened to his daughter to prevent the normally reliable former West Point cadet from contacting him, her boyfriend, her friends, or any of the people she usually keeps in touch with regularly. 2 days before the North Haverhill accident, Maura Murray had smashed up her father's new car in an accident in Hadley, Mass., not far from the University of Massachusetts campus in Amherst, where she's a junior. Fred Murray said yesterday that he and his daughter's boyfriend, Bill Rausch of Marengo, Ohio, as well as her friends and siblings, have been trying to figure out if her stress over the first accident would have been enough to cause her to withdraw $280 from her bank account and tell her employees in an art gallery that she'd be away for a week, or someone using her computer to send that email. She was upset because of the accident in my car. She felt she had disappointed me, let me down like any kid would. I don't think it was anything serious. He said Maura headed for the North Country because it was familiar territory for her. The family had vacationed for years in the Lincoln, New Hampshire and Conway, New Hampshire area, he said, and liked to climb 10,000-foot peaks. Asked if there was one special place she might have headed for, her father said yes, in Bartlett, New Hampshire. I've checked, nobody's been there, he said. The other thing that I went over on the previous episode is that Rick Graves, or rather 2 episodes ago, Graves stated that Maura was familiar, but not from that side. So from the other side in Bartlett. So where the Saturn, the so-called staged accident scene was, Maura would not have not been familiar there. So he thought that was really peculiar that allegedly she came from that side. He and his son, Fred Jr., 33, also of Hanson, Mass., have all hit all the campgrounds they could find that their family used over the years. They were all locked down and snowed in. Maura's boyfriend, Bill Rausch, 23, is an Army lieutenant stationed at Fort Sill, Oklahoma. He's in another room at the Wells River Motel. Last night, he dropped in on his parents, Bill and Sharon Rausch of Marengo, Ohio, in their room there, and said he's dreading reporting back for duty some 2,000 miles away if Maura hasn't turned up by the weekend. We were just talking about the future the other day, he said, during one of the regular phone calls he had with Maura. Though not officially engaged yet, he said it was clear to everyone the couple had planned to marry and that he was going to get out of the service so they could start a family. Was that really clear? Whatever happened to it, they were on the rocks, according to Bill Rausch's friend, or her other boyfriend, according to other people. What a narrative spun here early on. New Hampshire State Police let family members retrieve Maura's belongings from the Saturn. Bill Rausch is holding onto her fat favorite stuffed animal, Joseph, a monkey that she had in the car with her. Okay, so is this what? So Bill Rausch has the monkey. Can we verify that he got the monkey from the Saturn, or did he just say he did? Again, the photos that Cecil Smith took the night of the staged accident would answer all these questions. But these photos can't be released for whatever reason. Area 51 style, just like Karen Mayott's police report from UMPD regarding the so-called alleged breakdown on Thursday night. Why all the secrecy? Is this because someone doesn't want this case solved? Because releasing that report and releasing the photos from the staged accident scene, that would give a lot of answers here, so none of this would have to be taken on blind faith and blind faith alone. So do we only have Bill Rausch's word here on where he got the monkey? Because he's holding it, and I guess he either said that or someone else said that. The Rausches said they're doing their best to remain upbeat and positive. Sharon Rausch said she thinks often of Elizabeth Smart, the Utah girl who was kidnapped and was missing for months before police found her and brought her home. He misses her terribly, she said of her son. It's strange, but when I see her picture on the television, it's hard to believe we're in the middle of this. Is this just a really bad dream, or is it real, she asked. Fred Murray and his son returned to the motel last night after spending much of the day combing the snowy woods in the White Mountains National Forest not far from the Haverhill site where Maura was last seen, or alleged to have been last seen. Again, Butch Atwood said the driver did not look like the pictures he was shown. And then, of course, the Westmans, there was the statement, in the dispatch, man smoking a cigarette. And even Butch Atwood's own phone call log states he hit a pine tree. He. I mean, who can hallucinate that refers to a she? He is he, she is she. Unless someone wants to say that Rhonda March, the police dispatcher, is so incompetent that she just can't accurately type what she's hearing. Her father said he followed boot prints over about a half a mile of rugged terrain before he saw a clear enough point to determine that they had been boots larger than his daughter's size 8 shoes. Murray said his and his Rausch family members had in the past week papered the area with posters bearing his daughter's photos from central Vermont to Fryeburg, Maine, and searched behind miles of roadside snowbanks. No one could fail to see the missing person notices at the Swiftwater Stage Shop, a log cabin style convenience store not far from the spot where Maura Murray vanished. Again, if she even vanished from that spot. She might have just vanished from UMass. Again, a lot of presuppositions and assumptions early on, and are they all by design? Owner Winnie Madison had them posted on her front door and at the checkout counter. She said yesterday that the disappearance had been a major topic of conversation among customers. Everybody has an opinion, there just isn't anything concrete. But the more time that goes by, the worse it looks, she said. Meanwhile, yesterday, a school bus driver, Butch Atwood, whose home is within sight of the crash scene, said he was just about to park his bus on that Monday night at about 8 p.m. when he spotted a car nearly sideways on the road. He rushed down to see if he could help. She spun on the curve, she had no lights on, and it was a dark car. I could just about see it. I put my flashlight in the window. She was behind the airbag. All I could see was from her mouth up. Interesting. Is that enough to ID somebody that had an airbag in their face? I mean, can anybody hallucinate that this is a positive ID by any stretch of the imagination? And again, he also had all these conflicting stories about how he even came up to talk to her. Atwood said yesterday as he stood in his driveway and pointed to the accident spot, I yelled in and she said she was okay. She was shaking, as anyone would be if they'd been in an accident. The 57-year-old Atwood said he described Maura's struggle to squeeze her way out through the driver's door of the car that he said had sustained considerable front-end damage. I told her I was going to run up to the house and call the police. She said, no, please don't. I already called AAA. Well, under my breath, I said, that's a lie. You can't make a cell call from here, Atwood said. Cellular reception is poor throughout the area. Despite the young woman's protests, Atwood said he did summon police, but when he went back outside, she was gone. I guess I was the last one to see her. I heard a couple of cars go by when I was on the phone, but I didn't see her get in a car, and I don't know which way she went. We're all just dumbfounded by this, Atwood said. And again, this is all after the fact, so who knows what Atwood was told or not told to say by other parties. A couple of drivers along Route 112 yesterday afternoon got a surprise when they took a curve and then had to hit the brakes quickly as they encountered one tall police chief and 2 state troopers walking toward them in the roadway. Williams and Lieutenant John Scarinza, the Twin Mountain Troop Commander, plus his second-in-command Sergeant Tom York, examined the crash scene in the surrounding area once again. The Haverhill chief declined to say exactly what the three were doing. Whoa, interesting. Huh. That's pretty interesting. So this article is February 9th, and this is saying a couple of drivers along Route 112 yesterday. Actually, this is February 19th. So would that be the 18th or the 17th? Where they're back in the area and they're just doing what? The Haverhill chief declined to say exactly what the three were doing. Were they looking for something? But he did say, although there were no new developments yesterday, he was not ready to just go along with the fears of family members that Maura Murray had been the victim of foul play. If any good Samaritan picked her up, please call us. If that's all it is, the person hasn't done anything wrong. She's an adult, and if she wants to be missing, that's fine. We'd just like to know what happened, Williams said. Why are they so interested in canvassing the area, just the three of them? They're just examining that area all these days later, randomly, just the three of them. That's weird. That's kind of weird. But anyway, the critical point there was about Billy Rausch being with Joseph the monkey. Post by Lively Mamu here. So she brought it with her in her Saturn. If it had a hidden camera in it, I wonder if she knew and had maybe told him over the phone that if he published those sex tapes, if there were sex tapes, that she'd provide law enforcement with the proof he had been responsible and it would ruin his career. Again, it would be interesting if the family remembered how giving the monkey to Bill Rausch came about and whether he specifically asked for it. What I'd like to know is if New Hampshire State Police asked to get it back. But, okay, let's see. On other posts here, as far as the monkeys go, police never retained either or asked for them as evidence in any way. Some have brought up that if the monkey wasn't on the search inventory the very next morning that Haverhill law enforcement did of the Saturn and Billy Rausch had it later that week in New Hampshire, did he get it from the family, law enforcement, or did he get it out of the car another way? But how if he wasn't in New Hampshire before February 11th? Questions. Monkey business, indeed. Here's an interesting post from somebody regarding some anecdotes here from as early as 2000, between 2000 and 2003, so at least 1 year earlier. Definitely an interesting theory and not actually that far-fetched. I personally know of 2 situations involving a hidden camera amongst my own smallish circle of friends. One was in clock. Her boyfriend worked at a large hotel and security had a set of clocks they randomly but regularly used to monitor the room cleaners. He arranged a special night for my friend in one of the posh rooms, had his security friend put one of the clocks in the bedroom to film them having sex, and she didn't know. She found out when they broke up because he used it as a threat and he showed her the videos. Another friend actually consented to a boyfriend filming because she was into porn and it was exciting to her, but long story short, a camera was rigged inside a trinket box on his dresser, which he'd already filmed her several times before he asked for her consent. She thought it was just the once via a camera he showed her at the time of a consent, a different camera. She found the videos on his laptop like a year later. That's why they split. And luckily she had a cop friend and an IT friend who both helped make sure those videos disappeared. Both situations would have been circa 2000 to 2003. All I can say is the trauma they both experienced was extreme. And to this day, one of those friends still surfs sites to be sure footage of her isn't on the web. Not that she can search everywhere. Sex is big business. I mean, 20 years later, she still brings it up in conversation. It also sure made me extremely paranoid about any new person I dated. If 2 friends suffered this, it could happen more often than we all know. Another post here. Yes, even if a woman consents to it, that doesn't necessarily mean she likes the idea of being in the public domain. There was a sex scandal at West Point at the time, and I wonder if it involved this. Yeah, I mean, and that Thursday, again, that's the same night of the breakdown, allegedly Donald Rumsfeld apparently announced some kind of major military scandal all over the country. So, yeah, I mean, the West Point connections are all over the place. A couple more posts here. People were also asking who took the dorm pics that were released and why, especially the one with the monkey hanging from the pipes. Never heard of taking personal dorm room pics for any missing persons case. If the family was made aware of this possibility and with what they already know, it might click with one of them about any bizarre behaviors concerning the monkeys. At this point, everyone might have thought it's just some sentimental gift. I think I've read a few versions of what Bill did when he left Oklahoma. Do we officially know when Bill was allowed in Maura's dorm room? If I remember correctly, didn't James Renner also write that Bill wanted the hidden camera alarm clock back from the girlfriend he secretly filmed and the judge refused? Was it for the same reason that he's the one who went to Maura's dorm room to get that monkey back? Would be interesting to know if New Hampshire State Police asked for the monkey back with the rest of her items, and if they did, was it the original monkey or another one they bought and gave to New Hampshire State Police to avoid having a camera found? Wow. Wow. That's quite the theory. It might be a usual pattern when he breaks up with someone, get the jewelry back as well as whatever item contained the hidden camera. In this case, Maura brought jewelry with her too, but then left it in the Saturn if she was in the Saturn. However, if the Saturn was being dumped by someone else, why leave the diamond jewelry and take alcohol instead? Some responses: staged. Another post here. An early UMass newspaper puts Billy Rausch in Maura's dorm on Wednesday, February 11th, the day the Rausch family arrived. So he went to the dorm right away instead of where the Saturn was found. But even if accompanied by UMPD officers, it doesn't seem likely he would rifle through her things or take anything right in front of them, in my opinion. Well, also, we really don't know. We don't know the logistics of that. Did they let him in the room and just wait outside the room? Did they let him in the room and then possibly not pay attention to what he was doing while he was in the room? Or did he have a buddy that was in the UMPD? And this was Daily Collegian. I've gone over this article a number of times. Missing students' parents angry over police investigation, January 26, 2005, by Dan O'Brien, Massachusetts Daily Collegian. Another interesting wrinkle here. A poster says here, wasn't there a DVD in her car that the family didn't say what the contents of it were? And that's the only thing I can find there. There was a CD found. Julie said it was a New Radicals album. So was there some confusion in CD versus DVD? So as usual, there's always more questions than answers in the Maura Murray case. And again, if we have only Bill Rausch's word that he actually pulled the monkey from the car, is it possible he got it another way? Is that possible? And even if he did take it from the car, how did it get to the car? And why was it that specific monkey? Was someone who was staging the Saturn and putting certain contents in it not aware that she would have taken the other monkey? Because that's the one she cared about. Unless, of course, we go down these rabbit holes that there was a hidden camera in the monkey. But that's not that simple, again, because this is 2004. So again, it's not like it's the mid-90s. It's a theoretical possibility. There were definitely hidden cameras much earlier than 2004. But in terms of battery life and actually getting the footage, wouldn't you have to physically be there? Now, again, if Bill Rausch was physically there that weekend, which, again, we've discussed in the past few episodes, because he can't corroborate any of his whereabouts. I mean, there's been no definitive evidence establishing any kind of clear pattern of travel or where he was or wasn't present. Now, of course, it can be done. You have airport security footage. I mean, there's all these different ways to verify exactly where Bill Rausch was. This wasn't done, though. A lot of the clueless goofs, the steers, the obfuscators, and coincidence theorists, they pretend and hallucinate that it was already done. Maybe it was, but we don't know that. So again, any logical person is not going to pretend and hallucinate something was done that they have no evidence that was done. Because again, Billy himself said he felt like Scott Peterson and he was being treated as a suspect. If he was already in the UMass area that weekend, that would make it a lot more reasonable that police would be treating him as such. So, yeah, and he could also be the good guy. I talk about that all the time. If Maura Murray got into some kind of trouble, either CI related or otherwise, she told him about it, he was rushing there to help. And for whatever reason, he can't divulge that information. Maybe he did tell law enforcement. Maybe he did tell the FBI. If it's sensitive and it pertains to the investigation, obviously he wouldn't be able to tell anybody else. So there's a lot of different variables and different theories and different explanations why it would all look this way. But the longer this goes on, the more you have to look outside the normal area of investigation. Is a mundane detail like these two monkeys, is this a possible key to unraveling this giant mountain of coincidences and at least pointing in the right direction of getting this case solved. Hope you guys found another edition of Mindshock True Crime in the Maura Murray series interesting and informative. As always, if you want to help support the Mindshock podcast, help us get more mind-shocking content out there, keep up awareness, not just in this missing persons cold case, but in other cold cases, unsolved cases, wrongful convictions, and more. You can donate to our PayPal. Just check the link in the description. You can also become a YouTube member right here on YouTube for access to exclusive streams and chats. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit that bell for notifications, like and share the podcast, Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, Patreon. Patrons do get priority for case topic, logical analysis, co-podcast, or requests. You can also be a guest in the podcast depending on your tier. Questions, comments, theories, thoughts, suggestions, rebuttals, debunkings of any kind, leave them in the comment section. This is Bruce McGuire signing off. Catch you guys next time.